So yes, so they believe that he was just another natural man. Nothing special about him. He was just another natural man. And for those who have not discredited Shaul, they'll go to Romans chapter 1 and verse 3. Those who have not totally discredited Shaul, they'll go to Romans chapter 1 and verse 3 to say this. They'll also go to Yahuah chapter 1, and I believe, let me find it, verse 20 or so. Yahuah chapter 1, verse 20. We're going to talk about what all that means. If Yahusha was just a regular person like you and I, what does that mean? What does that mean? What are we believing if that is what we believe? Verse 20 or so. Yahuah chapter 1, verse 20. We're going to talk about what all that means. If Yahusha was just a regular person like you and I, what does that mean? What does that mean? What are we believing if that is what we believe? Okay. Let's see. In verse 20 it says, "But while he thought about this, see, a messenger of Yahuah appeared to him in a dream, saying, Yahusaph, son of Daud, do not be afraid to take Mariam as your wife, for that which is in her was brought forth from the set apart spirit." Okay? So they go to Yahuah chapter 20 and they say, see, Yahusaph chapter 1 and verse 20, they say, see, Yahusaph is of the seed of Daud. Yahusaph was of the seed of Daud. And when you go to Romans chapter 1, it says that Mashyach was of the seed of Daud. So what that tells us, they say, is that Yahusha came about because Yahusaph laid with Mariam, and Yahusaph was the natural seed. That Yahusha was the natural seed of Yahusaph. Okay, they go a bit further. Now they go to Torah. They go to Torah and they say, see, Torah also tells us this. Okay, and let's go along with the thought here. Okay, and see where it leads us. So let's look at Dabarim chapter 18. Let's look at Dabarim chapter 18. Deuteronomy chapter 18. Deuteronomy. Family, it's going to be a slow process getting through Shaul's writings. I got to keep saying that, because every once in a while we're going to have to stop and we are going to have to go line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little and there a little, because what we're doing is we are investigating Shaul. Yes, absolutely. So it's going to be a slow process. I just say that because, you know, oftentimes you run into people and they want the answer in 5 seconds or less, you know. But it just can't be that way. Praise Father. Okay, so now we go to Dabarim chapter 18. Okay, again, remember what they say. we go to Dabarim, Deuteronomy chapter 18. First, let's stop at verse 15 and see what it says. Yahuah your Elohim shall raise up for you a prophet like me. This is Masha speaking. Okay, this is Masha speaking, and Masha says, Yahuah your Elohim shall raise up for you a prophet like me from your midst, from your brothers. Listen to him. Oh, so, seem like this is saying precisely what they say, that Yahusha was just a natural, regular man like you and I. Nothing different about him. He was just a natural, regular man like you and I. Absolutely nothing different about him. Okay? That's seem like it's validating what they're saying, because let's go now to verse 18 and see what Yahuah himself says. Verse 18, and see what Yahuah himself says. Okay? In verse 18 it says, I shall raise up for them a prophet like you. This is Yahuah speaking to Masha. I shall raise up for them a prophet like you out of the midst of their brothers. Out of the midst of their brothers. And I shall put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all that I command him. Okay? All that I command him. Thank you, Aki. Well, let's back up to verse 16 and 17. Okay? According to all you act. As a matter of fact, let's start back at verse 15. How about that? Okay? Yahuah your Elohim shall raise up for you a prophet like me from your midst, from your brothers. Listen to him. According to all you asked of Yahuah your Elohim in Hurab, in the day of the assembly, saying, let me not hear again the voice of Yahuah my Elohim, nor let me see this great fire anymore, lest I die. And Yahuah said to me, what they have spoken is good. I shall raise up for them a prophet like you, out of the midst of their brothers, and I shall put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all that I command him. Now let's go on a little bit further, because, and I'm going to jump to, well, I think you should figure that the next thing that was going to come was context, right? Putting things in context. Okay? So when we read isolated verses, when we fail to study line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little, and not rightly divide but rightly apply, when we rightly apply, then what we end up with, the facts are different than when we rightly divide. You cannot rightly divide. You see, you're only scattering if you divide. But when you put it into context, okay, this is what he's talking about. So we continue. So here in verse, so the people asked for, the people begged Yahuah. They said, listen, we don't want you to speak to us face to face anymore. Okay? As a matter of fact, he didn't even speak to them face to face. He never revealed himself to them. They saw the fire and the cloud and the smoke, and they were afraid. They heard his voice that sounded like a trumpet, and they were terrified. You see? Yes. Yes. There should be a but between rightly and divide. Absolutely, Aki. That's where the but belongs. You see? They were terrified. So they said, please, we don't want him to appear to us in that manner anymore. Okay? Speak to us through a prophet. Speak to us through a prophet. Speak to us through a prophet. Okay? So verse 19, and it shall be, the man who does not listen to my words which he speaks in my name, I require it of him. Now, family context is important. Let's go on, because and I kind of decided to just go ahead with it. I kind of jumped into it a little bit prematurely, because I was going to let the suspense hang for a little bit. You see, but I'll come back to that part. What does it mean if this is saying that Yahusha is of the natural seed of Yahusaf? What would that mean for what we believe in and who we believe in? What would it mean? I'm going to come back to that, but let us finish the context of this. So he says, and it shall be, the man who does not listen to my words, which he, the prophet that he will raise up, which he speaks in my name, I require it of him. Now verse 20. But the prophet who presumes to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or who speaks in the name of other mighty ones, even that prophet shall die. Now, to this point, I think that it is clear that what Devarim chapter 15 and what Devarim chapter 18 is saying, it's not saying that Mashyach, that the verses are not referring to Mashyach. It's referring to the request of the people of Yasharal when they begged Mashyach to ask Yahuah, do not appear to us the way you did before. Instead, give us a man that will speak to us. Okay? Give us a man like Mashyach. Give us a prophet like Mashyach. We no longer want to hear from you directly, because you scare us. You see? The fear of Yahuah is real. The fear of Yahuah was felt. And the fear of Yahuah should continually be felt. The problem is, as a people, we have lost the fear of Yahuah. You see? My wife was sitting in the window. She loves when it rains and when there is thundering and lightning. She loves it. You know, it just puts her in mind of Yahuah. Well, she loves it so much that she wants, when it rains, she want to go sit in the car, or she want to get up close to the window and admire the power of Yahuah at work. And one day she was sitting in the window and it was storming really bad. And she was admiring the lightning and the thundering, and the lightning was striking all over the place. And you know, Yahuah was so good and so merciful to her. He said, you fool, get up out the window. You see, when we lose the fear of Yahuah, we put ourselves in danger. I don't care how much you admire lightning and thundering, you don't, listen, when you see when you see the lightning begin to strike and the thundering begin to roar, you run and find somewhere to shelter. You don't run out there, you know, like, I don't know what, you know, being foolish. That's not fear. That's stupidity, you see.
Storm chasers have given us the wrong perception.
Yep. You see? That's stupidity. And so people have lost the fear of Yahuah. But Yahuah is to be feared. You see? It's a real fear. He is to be feared. And so it's because they've lost the fear of Yahuah why they can take so much liberty at twisting his word. But here Yasharal, after they had heard the voice of Yahuah, and they saw the smoke and the thundering and the lightning, they said, listen, we don't want him to speak to us anymore. Give us somebody like ourselves that we can speak, that will speak to us, that he can speak to us through. Okay, so that's what he did. This is not speaking about Mashyach. No, the ensuing verses lets us know that. So he says that I'm going to raise up prophets unto you. I'm going to raise up prophets unto you. This command came long before it even took place. Okay, but I'm going to raise up prophets unto you. Okay, I'm going to raise up prophets unto you. And they also remember that the people, they say, listen, we don't want Yahuah to be king over us. Give us a king after the kind of the other nations about us. And what did they get? They got Shaul. It led them into a mess. You see. Okay, so he says, I'm going to raise up men that will be my messengers. Okay. And so he says, so now he's telling you, how do you know when a certain man is from me, a prophet, a true prophet, or when he is not? So he says here in verse 20, but the prophet who presumes to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or who speaks in the name of other mighty ones, even that prophet shall die. If he was speaking about Mashyach, he would not need to go into all of this detail. You see, if he was speaking about Mashyach, he would not need to go into all of this detail. Okay? And when you say in your heart, how do we know the word which Yahuah has spoken? Verse 22. Here's the answer. When the prophet speaks in the name of Yahuah, and the word does not come to pass, or comes not, that is the word which Yahuah has not spoken. When a person let me read that again. When the prophet speaks in the name of Yahuah and the word is not, what that means, the word is not found in the word written. The word is not. You cannot find it in his word. When a prophet speaks and what he speaks is not found in his word, and when he speaks and the word that he speaks does not come to pass, Yahuah has not spoken. This is not speaking about Mashyach. Okay? The prophet has spoken it presumptuously. Do not be afraid of him. Do not be afraid of him. Okay, so, I was going to let this one hang for a little bit, but we went there. So, the point is, okay, so what we know is that when they use Torah to say that Romans chapter 1 and Matthew chapter 1 and verse 20 is telling us that Mashyach is nothing more than just a man like you and I, Torah proves that that is false. The very verses that they point you to prove the context of the verses, prove that that is false. Shabbat shalom to you, Shamura. Okay, the context proves that that is false. Okay, now, so what if, let's go there. So what if, looking now back at Romans chapter 1 and Matthew chapter 1 and verse 20, what if, according to the flesh, is telling us that it was Yahusha who impregnated Maryam and brought forth Yahusha? What if that, according to the flesh that is used there, what if that's what that is telling us as these teachers teach? What if that's what that is telling us? That means that Yahusha is nothing more than a regular man like you and I. A regular person like you and I. What does all that mean to us then? What does that mean? What that would mean is that the very thing that Yahuah tells us not to do, which is, he is not pleased with the sacrifice of human beings. He is not pleased with one sacrificing humans. The very thing that he is telling us that he is not pleased with is the very thing that he would have done. He would have required the sacrifice of a regular human being. Okay? Because if Yahusha is just a regular man, then it is no different than the practices of the pagans, of the heathens that surround Yasharal. We would still need a redeemer. Absolutely acute. Because, you know why we would still need a redeemer? Because if he was a regular man, he would be just as sinful as we. You see? He would not have been perfect. I don't know if you remember, but there was a gentleman that came into this room not very long ago. And he came, you remember that guy, Fax? He called himself Fax. The last time he came with the racism doctrine. The time before that he came with this garbage. That Yahusha, what he was saying, he didn't go there. I know that's where he was heading, but I wasn't going to go there before he did. I just stayed where he was. But he was saying that we are born perfect. We all come into this world perfect. It's the situations that corrupt us, but all of us come here perfect. And I was saying to him, oh no, the scriptures lets us know that in Adam all died. That is spiritual death. You see? So we all have inherited a sin nature. We have inherited a desire. We have inherited a thirst for sin. When a baby comes into this world, you know, I was reading a survey that some university did, and they studied babies. They took these babies and they put them together and they studied them, you know, doing a study. They gave them toys to play with and see how they would react. They limit the toys and see how they would react when they have limited toys. They did a bunch of different stuff with the babies. And as they studied these babies, you know what they came up with? What they came up with was that babies, if babies don't change to some degree, if they don't learn, if they're not taught how to socialize, how to interact with other people, if you just let them be the way they come into the world, they would be, they give them different names like, you know, killers, murderers, thieves, a bunch of stuff. When you hear the titles, they give them scientific titles, you know, big names. When you hear them, though, I mean, it is amazing. No, these are people that don't even believe. These are people that, you know, they're not even coming from a scriptural perspective. But when you hear the description that they give to these babies based on the behavior that they observed, it is scary. They're like little demons. Absolutely. Baby want a toy from another baby, you know what he does? He just mugs the baby in the face and snatches it. Other little baby make a sound that he don't like, he bang him in the head with the toy. You see, it's every man for himself. Even from a baby. You see, the scriptures tells us that even a child is known by his doing. Even a child is known by his doing. People like to say, oh, kids are angels. No, they're not. No. If you fail to bend them, if you fail to correct them, if you fail to instruct them, what you're going to end up with is a bunch of mess that you don't want to deal with. You see? That stench is going to be so great that there will be no kind of mask that you can put on to approach it, to try to clean it up later if you don't fix it now. So, you see, the scriptures tells us that we were born in sin, shaped in iniquity, and in sin were we conceived. You see? We were conceived in sin. So when people say, oh, no, we were all born perfect, that is a bunch of baloney, pork baloney. No good.
Mm-hmm. The illustration is Perez, whatever his name is.
Mm-hmm.
You remember the little one that broke through first, stuck his arm out, but then he took his arm back in.
Mm-hmm.
Another one broke free. Well, the midwife named him based on him disturbing the order.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. We can look at the story of Faraz, as my wife was just saying. You know, Faraz and what was his brother's name again? I forget his brother's name now. You know, but His brother got his, it was, who was it? Faraz that got his hand out first. No, no, no. His brother got his hand out first. No, that was a situation. But his brother got his hand out. The midwife put the scarlet thread on his hand, and Faraz yanked him back and got his hand out next. You know, and so that's how he got his name. You know? When one says that, yes, thank you, Aki. Tahlim 51:5. See, I was brought forth in crookedness, and in sin my mother conceived me. You see? I was brought forth in crookedness. So if Yahusha was just a man like you and I, could he have fulfilled the prophetic lamb, the Passover lamb? Could he be the Passover lamb? The scripture says that the lamb had to be perfect, without blemish. Would he have been without blemish? No. You see? If Yahusha was a man like you and I, then what Yahuah would be telling us to indulge in is human sacrifice. You see? If Yahusha was a man like you and I, he could not have satisfied the cost of redemption, because the cost of redemption is pure blood. Pure blood. And because mankind is not pure, then the cost would never be satisfied. We would continue to pay the wages of sin and death. What is the wages of sin and death? What is the wages of sin is death. You see, and we're going to get into that about the laws that Shaul talks about. Okay? Great confusion and misunderstanding and wrong teaching by people who are held in high esteem, by people who need to really begin to search the scriptures, because these men are misleading people in a big way. Okay? So Yahuah did put his seed. So what does it mean? What does it mean in verse 3? Romans chapter 1 and verse 3. What does it mean when he says the seed of Daud according to the flesh? The seed of Daud according to the flesh. What does it mean? Well, according to the flesh means that Yahuah was going to come in the form of a man. He was going to come in flesh. He was going to come looking like you and I. That's what according to the flesh mean. Okay? The seed of Daud, where did the seed of Daud come from but from Yahuah? Okay? Yahuah said that his reign would not cease out of the tribe of Yehudah. Okay? And so Mashyach came out of the tribe of Yehudah. Who is Yehudah? But the seed of Yahuah himself. Who is Yehudah? But the seed of Yahuah himself. You see. So in Yahuah, it is Yahuah that give us Yehudah, right? So when Yahuah put his seed into a woman, and the woman does not carry the seed, okay, the woman does not carry the seed. So even though Mariam is related to the tribe of Yehudah through adoption, through Boaz, it still don't mean that you can say, well, that's how he is of the tribe of Yehudah, because the seed does not come through the woman. Nonetheless, she was related to Yehudah because she was adopted. You see, because her people were adopted. How did Daud become a part of Yehudah? Through adoption. You see, through adoption. That's how, because Ruth, who they call Jesse, comes out of Ruth. Ruth was adopted. And that's how Daud become a part of the lineage of Yehudah. Okay? So, when Yahuah put his seed into the woman, and he brought her forth. And he changed the priesthood from Louis to Yahudah, the line of Yahuah himself. Okay? He changed the seed from the priesthood from Louis to Yahudah, the line of Yahuah himself. Okay? And so Yahuah did put his seed in the woman. I wouldn't call it an immaculate conception because that's a Christian terminology. Okay? I would just keep it simple. Yahuah put his seed in the woman, and he brought forth his seed, which was himself. If you go to the book of Philippians, and we've been there before, but I'd like to go there very briefly. Go to the book of Philippians, chapter 2.